Good afternoon and welcome to Penn's Perspectives on Company Roots. Today I'm interviewing Adit Gosh, a senior in Wharton's LSM program and the co-president of the Wharton Undergraduate Finance Club. My name is Suresh Jasti and I'm a rising freshman at the Wharton School and I'm from Holmdel, New Jersey. Thank you for coming on today, and it's a privilege to interview you and connect with you. So the first question that I always ask everybody is, what are your roots and how do they help you in shaping your ideas and becoming the person you are today?
Yeah, sure. Well, first a little bit about myself, I guess. I'm from the Chicagoland area, the Chicago suburbs. And one of the biggest things I think that was emphasized from my roots is just a focus on education overall. So pretty early on, it was instilled that the best way to, the best way to kind of develop yourself is by learning as much as possible. And that's kind of what I've carried through high school as well as my college experience so far. Trying to learn as much as possible through experiences, through books and all of that. So I think that's something that's really kind of shaped my personality itself.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, going forward, I definitely hope to carry that on in my professional career as well. Just trying to, absorb things from, hands-on experiences, reading as much as possible, all of that.
So where did you get your roots from in terms of like heritage and also just how you got into Wharton?
Sure. So in terms of my heritage, my parents immigrated from India. They came so my dad came to do his PhD. My mom came to do her master's here. My dad he did engineering. So there's kind of that early interest in science for him, and it kind of carried on for me. So I got an interest in healthcare in high school. Worked in a couple of research labs in high school. Became really interested in the biomedical sector, but I kind of realized I wanted to do something a bit more translational. So that's why I kind of applied to the LSM program at Penn, which is a school program that combines a biology major with a business major in Wharton. So basically students can combine those two interests and they could do something a bit more translational in terms of bringing, the bench discoveries that you might do at in the research lab to the patient's bedside, which I thought was super exciting, especially in this age of, innovation, biotech and pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
So that's what led me to apply to Wharton in the first place. Yep.
And I'm doing a lot of work in the pharmaceutical industry right now. So it is
Really?
so huge, and
Right.
the amount of R&D and research that they're doing is just billions of dollars every year. So it's definitely
Exactly.
um and kind of on that note, based on your experiences over the past 3 or 4 years you've been in Wharton, what types of internships and clubs that you did were the most impactful for you?
Sure. So first on the internships point of view, my freshman year, I was fortunate to get to work at a pharma company called Bristol Myers Squibb, in Jersey, actually.
Yeah.
And that was a great experience. It was a big pharma company, so I got to see how the company is really giant. There's operations all around the world. It was mostly R&D work, but I got some good insight into the different divisions of BMS, which was very cool. So I had a good experience there. But again, the exposure was a little bit less because it is a big pharma company, so it was easy to get kind of overlooked as an intern there.
Yeah.
So then the following summer, so for LSM, they actually required us to have a science internship after our sophomore summer. So I interned at a biotech company this time. I wanted a little bit more exposure in biotech companies, kind of like startups. There, you are more likely to get attention and get some more hands-on experience, really.
Yeah.
So I worked at this biotech company called Allergen. It was really exciting stuff. They're working on taking our immune cells and basically attacking cancer, which was really cool work, cutting edge research. Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. And that was in San Francisco, and that was also a cool city to get to see.
Yeah.
So overall, that experience was amazing. And then finally, last summer, they required us to do a business internship to get that the other side for LSM. So I worked in healthcare banking healthcare investment banking at this bank called Lazard. It's like a boutique bank. It would have been in New York. It was virtual, unfortunately, this summer. But yeah, so it was virtual, but they still had us work on live transactions, which is very cool. And some cool strategic advisory work for our clients.
Yeah.
And that was just a good way to kind of apply some of the learnings from the internships as well as some of my classes from earlier. And get to apply it to real world corporate world. So that was very cool. So I guess that's the internships part. In terms of extracurriculars, I would say I've had two big main extracurriculars here at Penn. The first being the Wharton Undergraduate Consulting Club, where I was originally like a consultant for a little bit and then a project leader, so leading projects.
Yeah.
And I mean, at first I was kind of interested in finance as well as consulting, so I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So that's why I got interested in the consulting club. And it's pretty cool to get that, real world experience. You get to work with real clients. A lot of the clients are in the Philly area. So you have to work hand in hand with them on their problems and work together to solve them. So that was a good experience. And then I think my biggest commitment right now is the Wharton Undergraduate Finance Club, where I've also been a member since freshman year. And it's just a really great community of people that are interested in finance. I'm now the co-president of it. And we're trying to expand the club and trying to really, capture students that are passionate about finance and have them learn more about the field. We have some really great sponsors, so we're really hoping to kind of partner with them so that, even people that are underrepresented in the finance industry get those opportunities. So I guess those are my two big commitments at Penn. Yep.
Yeah. And so at Wharton, are you getting a dual degree between healthcare and finance then?
So in Wharton, I'm doing finance and management concentrations right now. Yeah, and then I'm gonna do a biology major on the college.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And kind of transitioning to the club-based questions.
Mhm.
Every great organization has an incredible team. So what qualities do
Yep.
you look for in your team when recruiting for the Wharton Undergrad Finance Club?
Definitely, yeah. So I mean, basically we recruit a new leadership team every year, and one of the biggest things that we do as like kind of presidents is also so basically, let me first say what the structure of WUFC is in general. So we have VPs leading our committees, and then we have the presidents, and then we have executive vice presidents between the VPs and the presidents.
Yeah.
So one thing that we tell all of our VPs is to plan for succession ahead of time. So like choose students that are number one, they've been very committed to the club, and they've been coming to all the meetings and shown interest. But then number two, most importantly, is that you can come to all the meetings, but also you need to have the leadership skills to kind of lead the committees down the line.
Yeah.
So we tell them to look for those in the committee members so that they can plan for succession afterwards. Because oftentimes you might have like a really committed person, but then they can't like inspire the committees to continue coming to meetings and stay passionate about the work that they're doing.
Mhm.
So those are the two things that we really look for in terms of the leaders of our organization.
Gotcha. And when you look for general club members, how do you go about getting them in?
You're right. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of interest from Penn students, which is great. But yeah, unfortunately, we can't take everyone to be committee members. Definitely, like one of the biggest things that we look for is just like an interest in terms of interest in finance in general. Like you don't need to have any previous knowledge when you're applying for the club, really. But you have to have like interest in learning more down the line. So we definitely look for that. Number one,
Yeah.
and then number two is just kind of so I mean, I guess that you could call it intellectual curiosity, really. And then number two is that you like your ability to work with others, really, because a lot of the things that we do in the club is, working with other committee members. And in order to have a good experience for everyone, in order to be part of like this kind of community that we've created, you have to be collaborative. You have to be able to work with other people.
Yeah. And for prospective club members, how would you describe the atmosphere of the club, and what do you think is the biggest benefit about being in it?
Right. So yeah, WUFC is like the biggest. I think it's the biggest undergraduate finance club at Penn. But at the same time, it is a tight knit community. So we basically know, like within the committees, everyone's pretty close, and we're trying to make it close across the committees as well. And in terms of what kind of differentiates WUFC from like other clubs, really, it's that it's kind of the sponsor network and our alumni network. Really, it's the people in it. It's a really strong network. It's been for years. Some of our sponsors include Goldman, Citi, and other finance institutions across the board. So one of the biggest things is the kind of the talent that we get to bring from those different institutions, and then they can kind of tell students about what their careers are like in the field, and they give some insight into the real world, really, because a lot of the stuff that we learn in our classes at Wharton and Penn is a little bit more theoretical, but to get that perspective of the real world is really important.
Yeah, totally agree. And why do you believe in the WUF's mission?
Right. Yeah. I think so. Again, the mission is basically to to educate everyone that's interested in finance about finance, basically. And I think that that's especially crucial today because a lot of the finance industry right now is focused on, attracting talent. Like historically, it's been attracting talent from certain schools, certain target schools, they call it.
Mhm.
And it hasn't really, so it's tough for people that are a bit underrepresented in the field to kind of break into it. But a lot of people that are underrepresented are interested in it. So I guess the biggest part of the WUFC mission is trying to get all of these students that are interested to have the opportunity to kind of tap into these firms. And these firms are obviously very willing to reach out to these students, but we kind of act as that connection between these students and those firms.
Yeah, that's awesome that you're, as the leader that you're trying to do that.
Yep. Yeah.
Mm. And so kind of transitioning into some more personal Penn-based questions, what is the
Mhm.
most interesting classes you've taken at your time in Penn, and how have you applied those lessons in real life?
Yeah. Let me think about that. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the coolest classes I've taken is is this class on corporate valuation. It's called Finance 207.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, one of the earliest things that we kind of learned in that class. So basically, the class is about how to value a company essentially,
Okay.
and um, a quick 30-second description of it is basically you take the future value of the company that you predict will be the future value. It's a lot of art and science, and then you kind of figure out what the value of that company is today. And sometimes that value is different from what they're trading at in the market in terms of their stock price, essentially.
Yeah.
Um, but basically, one of the biggest lessons from that class. So we have this huge project where you value a company using different models and all of that. And one of the biggest lessons I think that I learned from the company is this kind of notion that you have to companies are built on investments. So you invest in something and then you kind of see the returns down the line.
Yeah.
So if you make a lot of tiny, small investments down the line, then I mean you'll get returns, but they'll be small. But if you make really large investments early on, like R&D, for example, in pharmaceutical companies, then you might see those returns 20 or 30 years down the line, or maybe a little bit less. But the idea is that you'll see billions of dollars of returns uh, in terms of the return on the R&Ds. So I think that that's one of the lessons that's applicable in the class, but it's also and in business, but it's also applicable in real life. Like investing in your own education, for example, or investing in relationships, all of that.
Yeah.
So I think that class has had a huge influence both in my professional life as well as the personal life.
Yeah. It's kind of like being in the shark position in the Shark Tank.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what we thought when we were doing the project. It's a very cool experience though.
Yeah. If you could have a sit-down conversation with any one person on Penn's campus or Wharton Penn, who would it be and why?
Yeah. We have some really great professors here. Let me think about that. I would have to say Ezekiel Emanuel. He sounds this is the person that was basically responsible for the Affordable Care Act, putting it together. He also teaches a class here that I'd love to take sometime. But I mean, I love to just chat with them to kind of learn more. Like our healthcare system is in the U.S., as we know, is uh, broken to a very large extent. So I mean, but he's tried fixing it. So I'd love to talk to him about how kind of the policy side of healthcare works and learn more. It's because it's very complicated and he's a very intelligent person. So I'd love to kind of dig in and see what he's thinking.
Hmm. Dang. Okay. I gotta meet him.
Yeah.
Um.
Yeah, I take his class.
Yeah. Yeah.
Healthcare management 250. Yeah.
Healthcare management 250. Got it.
Yeah.
So when you look back at in time to Penn after 10 years, what are some of the little things you're gonna remember?
Ooh, yeah. Let me think about that. I mean, it's definitely the more I guess it's the friendships that you develop really. Like freshman year, so we all stayed in the quad together. Definitely gonna remember those memories, just like being in a friend's room until 2 or 3 a.m. just chatting away and talking. So those are just really small things. I mean, I don't remember any of the stuff we talked about. Probably was not relevant at all today, but those are just the small experiences that help time pass by freshman year. So I'll definitely remember those. Cherish
Dang.
those memories. Yep.
Gotcha. And with the pandemic keeping all campus activity virtual, uh,
Yep.
we won't have the chance to have those roommate type of stuff. But how would you recommend people maximize their time exploring Penn in the community now?
Right. So in terms of a virtual environment,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. That's a tough one. I mean, I would like if you're a freshman or something and you're just entering, it's super tough to kind of have those organic friendships that we developed on campus when we were in person. So I mean, I just would recommend don't hesitate to reach out to people. Just if you see anyone that you'd love to talk to. For example, if you're interested in WUFC, for example, don't hesitate to reach out to any of our board members and just ask questions. If you're ever like on Zoom calls with, join as many clubs as possible. And if you're ever on those Zoom calls, definitely don't hesitate to reach out to team members or committee members, all of that. So one of the best ways is kind of join these different clubs and extracurriculars to get to meet people that have similar interests to you.
Yeah.
And then also maybe in classes, in person, we could easily just chat with people and make friends through classes, but maybe in the virtual environment, you could try creating like group chats and meeting new people that way. So, it'll definitely be tougher, but you just have to kind of take initiative and try to meet people that way.
Yeah. And my last question for today's interview is, what one piece of advice would you give to current and prospective Penn students, and how do you recommend they start the process of like situating themselves to become a Penn member?
Right. Yeah, I think the biggest piece of advice is just to kind of enter with an open mind and don't be too closed-minded when you enter. So, when I first entered, I was really interested in, going to medical school and becoming, potentially becoming like a practicing physician to some extent. But then I kind of realized this interest in biotech and biopharm and realized this whole different world that I really didn't know anything about. So when you enter, just like don't have like a single career or a single thing in mind, like you're going to join this club and you're going to do this in 4 years or whatever. Just kind of enter with an open mind, because you never know what's right for you, and different experiences might shape your experience differently down the line. So definitely enter with an open mind.